Hi, it's Friday afternoon, and today I want to specifically talk to you about the Brooklyn Business Project that's going to be due, as I mentioned in the announcements and in the email, this Sunday before midnight, not today, Friday, but Sunday. But I also want to give you a little more extension for those of you who need it, because I haven't even finished myself grading all the Brooklyn Business Projects number 4. So I'm still grading some of those, and I know a lot of you might like to see it before you actually hand in your final, or you finalize your final Brooklyn project. But try to get it in by Sunday if you can, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to give you a critique and analysis. You'll have another chance to change it we still have time. So you have more time to work on it. So if you have it ready, no harm in getting it in. If you need a few more days, let's have up until Tuesday, Wednesday, let's say Wednesday, the final deadline to get that in. So most of us have to do this project because we didn't opt to do our final project as the luxury analysis. And some of us did that. A lot of us haven't given grades yet. So if you can please get in the grades for the luxury assignments, and that's up on Blackboard under the, is it under the luxury tab or is it under, no, I forgot where I put it. I think it's under the luxury, maybe it's under assignments actually, not under luxury, under the assignments tab. And it's an yes, because it's an assignment for everyone to grade their peers in that project. So we only had a couple of people, 3 people in each class, let's say, or 4, that decided, 3 groups that decided to do luxury. So the rest of us are doing the Brooklyn business. So it's a business we've been studying, and the final project is going to be the result of that. You're going to integrate all the things you already know about it into, let's keep as a guideline, a 5-minute presentation. So if you're going to come in, for example, on the 23rd to present for the small business owners, you're going to want to limit it to about 5 minutes. You can take 10 minutes. It's not going to be something that we're going to have a stopwatch. If you need more time, if you need less time, it's fine too. So 5 minutes is a guide, and perhaps a lot of us maybe need a little more than 5 minutes. It's fine. But probably we don't want to go over too much over 10 minutes. We can take questions. We can talk about it later. Don't be worried about this. I think the business, I did a talk, and another professor and a student was there presenting on Tuesday, and nobody came from class on Tuesday morning, and nobody decided to take that option, and it worked out okay for the talk. Remember, I had wanted, for those of you who have seen the flyer that I posted under the Brooklyn Business Project, the option that I wanted to do was to get students from these 2 sections of the Principles of Marketing class to be at workstations, some to talk about Twitter, Facebook, how to start a website, how to develop a website, others maybe to talk about Yelp. That's a good, especially for restaurants and for other kinds of businesses, that's a good social networking site to be on. And we didn't know. We didn't know what kind of business owners were going to be there. Were they going to be, very advanced technologically? As it turned out, I think there were about maybe about 15 not only business owners. There were like 2 bank tellers from Astoria Federal. There were 2 women who owned a health food store. There was someone who owned a printing business, not the printing businesses that maybe we know about, like the Flatbush Copy or Far Better Copier, but it was another printing business that does business cards, and I guess that does other things like that. So he was there. A couple of different people that worked in businesses, not always business owners, but people that were there were, I think, a little bit apprehensive. They weren't, maybe many of them hadn't been to Brooklyn College before and weren't sure what kind of situation this was going to be. So they were really not very talkative, very vocal, much more reserved. And so we didn't know what to expect, and we didn't know, again, how advanced people would be in terms of social media. It turned out that 3 business owners had websites. Others didn't have websites, and presumably in that case, I don't know if the student who did come to do the presentation, I think he might have asked, and he was really, really a brilliant student. He started his own social media consulting business, particularly geared toward musicians. And he really was able, which was very impressive, he was able to gauge the audience, to figure out kind of where they were at, and to see that they were a little bit apprehensive maybe to participate. So what he did after watching my presentation, after watching another professor who presented on social media, who gave an overview, and who talked about the importance of thinking about, for businesses, thinking about communication fundamentally, not technology. He said, forget about technology. Technology comes last. The first thing you need to think about is, who do you want to speak to, and where are they? So if you want to speak to your friend, for example, and your friend lives in Madrid, you can speak to him on the phone, you can speak on Skype. So you figure out, sending an email, sending a letter, what is the most effective way, and what is the nature of what you want to communicate. If you have something that's of real extreme importance to tell him, that's timely, then it might be much better to communicate via email, right? Or Facebook if he's on Facebook, than to send a letter and to wait 7 days for the letter to arrive. So that's basically what he talked about, and he gave some practical examples. And so Jason Abershami talked about the websites and talked about how to set up social media websites, and also how each business could start their own website. 3 of them had one, as I mentioned. And he made it really, really practical. And what he did that was great, he said, let me have a show of hands. How many people have a website? Because if he asked people to talk about it, they might be shy and people would just not respond. But he was able to do that, which is really very important. And what happened is that the director of the BID, the Business Improvement District, was so impressed with his presentation that she sent him an email saying that a copy of an email that she sent to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, which is not only the Flatbush Junction area, but is the entire that oversees and that interacts with businesses all over Brooklyn. And she gave them his name and said, if somebody needs help setting up a website, this is a young man at Brooklyn College who really is knowledgeable, who makes things simple and easy to understand. And people are contacting him now. So just from that one, talking about the importance of networking and being out there, just from that one small thing, and each person in the room might say, oh, if you need some help, call Jason. And he gave out a very, very simple flyer with his name, his contact information, and also just listing the websites, their addresses, how to find Facebook, how to find Twitter. And so people appreciated that. So that was a real good resource, and everyone really liked that. So that was impressive. So what you need to be doing to get back to your project, what you need to be doing, and not everybody needs to come. So one person, you can all come. I think it's a great experience. Businesses, as I said before, are going to expect you to be able, to get up there and to talk and to be able to communicate and to get your message across and to do research. So these are skills that you're going to have to use, and I think, when to learn them and when to practice them here at Brooklyn College, because when you're in the workplace, that's not the time for practicing. That's the time when you want to really do it in the most professional way possible. And people are going to expect that. They're not going to go to the older person who's 50 years old to ask them about Facebook or to ask them about questions about marketing to young people. They're going to ask you. And so you're going to have these things ready, and you're going to have to be able to get the information very quickly. So I think it's a great experience. If you can come, this is going to be some extra credit. I mentioned, depending on how good your presentation is, of course, let's say 5 points or so extra credit, which can be a difference between an A or an A minus and an A. So it's important, or a B plus and an A minus. So you should really take advantage of doing this. And what you should be doing is taking your information that you've already collaborated on, that you've already, the knowledge that you already had acquired about these businesses, and putting it together. And also, so think about, as I mentioned on the syllabus, what do you need to include in this final 5-minute presentation? You can take more if you need it, more time, 10 minutes. It's not going to be timed. But what you need to include, you need to talk about, first you need to situate. The person in the room may not know, may have never been in Bulletproof Comics, or may have never been in the Starbucks, for example. So you want to tell them what the business, where the business is, or what the business is doing. Give a very broad and brief overview of the business. And then you want to identify strengths and weaknesses. Now, a particular challenge of this kind of thing, I don't know, and I've asked you if you don't want your small business owner to be there, let me know. Like if this is going to be a really, you know, um, very, devastating critique of the business, then I think for those people, who have really found the place is filthy, there are rats, the sign is falling down, the person doesn't open the store on time, and there's no customer, there's no kind of the customer service is non-existent. So for those kinds of businesses, I don't think the business owner is going to come to Brooklyn College to hear how students think about marketing, and to hear professors talking about social media and marketing and other questions and how to run a business. I don't think those people who are that bad are going to come here. So it's going to be kind of opened. The director of the bid is going to go around to places and invite people. She's become very, just to let you know, she's become very a little bit disillusioned, I should say, because she felt that a lot of the business owners were not polite to her. She'd go into stores and she would try to announce the bid business school collaboration, and she would be told to leave. Don't put my name on that list. I want nothing to do with it. Please leave. And she was surprised that a lot of business owners, want nothing to do with this kind of project. And so those kind of people are not going to be there. Don't worry. But it's an interesting situation, because you're going to be in this situation in real life, and this is real life. But when you're working in a company, you're going to be in this situation where you're going to have to make a critique, and where the people that are being criticized are going to be there. So that's not an easy position to be in. And so you want to talk about the strengths in any case. And I think all of these businesses have strengths, obviously. They're doing things, they're in business, so they're operating there are people who like the businesses. You might not like certain things about them. You might not like the aesthetics, the store design. You might think that the product isn't that interesting, but there are people shopping there, and they're doing pretty well. And it reminds me, I have the final Pratt Institute study of the Flatbush Junction area, so I'm going to post that on Blackboard under the Brooklyn Business tab, so you can see that final research. And I'll also post the PowerPoint, because I presented a talk, an overview of the research, and at least I can present you with that PowerPoint that I presented the business owners with. So it'll be some good information for you. But you have to, you want to talk about the strengths, and then you want to talk about the weaknesses, and not in a way that you're condemning the business, but you're explaining what's not working and what could be improved upon, and that's positive, I think. Because you are going to be suggesting solutions. You're not just going to be criticizing and saying this place needs to be shut down. This is, what can it do to redeem itself? What can it do to improve itself? What can it do perhaps to take service and bring it to the next level? So what is your suggestion? So you're going to want to bring that part in. And then you're going to want to focus on something. So you may identify something simple, complex, but have a kind of theme. Have something that you've identified that really needs emphasis, and then talk about that. And that may be, in many cases, that may be how can the business better market itself in the community and or to Brooklyn College. That might be your focus. For somebody else, the focus might be on how the merchandise is arranged in the store, and how that really needs to be thought out and reworked before anything else. So you'll have all different kinds of focuses. But you should be clear, you should be decisive. People should kind of be able to follow and come out with, let's say when you finish, with a simple point or two that they can remember. So that this is a problem, this is a possible solution, this is a new direction, this is how we get to this point that would be desirable for that business. So you want to we want to be very definite. And remember, when you're talking to business owners or you're talking to people in the business community, they probably don't want too much theory. They don't want too much, they want to have definite, concrete answers that can be put into, and issues that can be, or suggestions that can be put into practice, and that are straightforward. So that's what you want to aim at in this kind of presentation. But you can bring in other things as well. I found that the business owners were, as I mentioned, a little bit reluctant to participate, and I'm not sure, I'm going to perhaps contact the people who did attend and ask them what they thought about the talk, what they'd like to hear about, how they feel about the student presentations. I'm going to tell them about the format, that each student is probably going to take about 5 minutes, and ask them if they have any suggestions, if they have any feelings about that, so we can get a sense of what kind of audience are we dealing with. That's always very important. But this will be an interesting project for you. Try to get it in, if you can, again, by Sunday, but it can be by Wednesday if you need a little more time. You're working together as a group. You don't have to present it as a group, but for one person presenting it, everyone will get credit. I've heard just a few cases of difficulties in the group. Somebody kind of, we're online, we're not meeting each other, somebody disappeared. If a person is not responsive, then you're going to have to make a decision, just like you would in the workplace, right? You're going to have to make a decision. And oftentimes in the workplace, the decision is that the group is the group, and that's the team, and it's somebody else's business, if that person is going to get fired someday down the road. But when you have to do a group presentation, let's say that person's part of the presentation was about the consumer and how the consumer relates to that brand. You can't just say, well, Linda hasn't been participating, so we're going to present our part of the paper or our part of the presentation, and we're not going to talk about the consumer. What you probably should do in a business situation is you cover for Linda and you present about the consumer, and you don't really complain and say, well, Linda wasn't here. But the most important thing is to have the comprehensive presentation, and that issue can be worked out later. But in your case, in a classroom situation like this, what you might do if somebody is totally non-responsive, has fallen off the face of the earth, maybe what you can do is just say to that person, are you participating in this final project? We're ready to go forward. We don't have your piece of it. And then if there's no response and there's no adequate participation, you kind of fill in that part, and leave that person out. And you're going to indicate on the final presentation that you hand in everybody's name who participated. So if somebody hasn't been around for a month or hasn't contributed the last time even, then you can just kind of drop them off, and they're going to have to figure out what to do for themselves. So I look forward to seeing your projects. If you have any questions, I haven't been checking I've got to look at the discussion board. I haven't been checking that lately. But if you have any questions, you can email me. I'm going to be in certainly on Tuesday, probably some other days next week as well. I think Thursday I have some all-day meeting about curriculum changes or something incredibly bureaucratic, let's call it. That's like an all-day thing, but I'll be around let me know if you need me to see you, if you need me to meet you as a group, you want to go over the presentation before the 23rd, I'm definitely available to doing that with you, to working with you. So thanks very much.